What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bodacious Rant with Burn and Rye. Hope everybody's doing good. Happy late Mother's Day to all you mothers out there, especially for all our good ranters and stuff. You know, we appreciate you all. We wouldn't be here without you today. Speaking of descendants of children and mothers and all that stuff, we are talking about a very one of those franchises that I didn't think would be that big of a deal. Like 20 years ago, you definitely wouldn't think, oh, it's a big deal kind of thing. But I think that's one of those like very almost like cult classic, very pop culture franchises. It's a little hard to describe, but we are talking about the latest film, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and that is a new set of Planet of the Apes movies that are more of a direct sequel from the previous trilogy that started in 2011 and then finished off in like 2017, 2018. That's when I think the last one came out. So this is a spoiler-free review, so no spoilers. Keep an eye. If you did enjoy the video, please give us a like, ring the bell, and of course subscribe. We do appreciate you all for that, and let's just keep growing the ranting community with love. That's all that's for. Because together we're strong. So don't forget that. Anyways, so this takes place generations after the last one, after Caesar met his end in the War of the Planet of the Apes. Spoiler alert for those who haven't seen those movies. If you haven't, you're uncultured swine. And now, you know, mankind is presumed to be extinct to a certain extent, depending on what ape you are, where you're at, essentially. And we set upon this tribe of apes that have mastered like eagles. They're eagle I don't know what that term is, but it's basically those who can like control birds or like communicate with them to use for all kinds of stuff. So and the main character's name is Noah, who is played by Owen Teague, and very random actor. But for those of you, for horror fans, if you watch the remake of the original It Chapter 1 from 2017, 2018, he was one of those bullies in that one that got killed pretty super quick. So it was kind of nice to have him in that. Freya Allen from the Witcher series. I'm glad that she's kind of starting to do a little bit more, not necessarily mainstream, but more cinematic stuff besides the Netflix. Because I haven't really seen her in anything else, so I could be wrong on that. And also I had one of my favorite actors from for at least the last 20 years, which is Kevin Durand. He's one of those actors that's finally getting his due, because he's played all kinds of characters, from Smokin' Aces to the Strain TV series, Robin Hood with Russell Crowe, and then recently he was in Abigail this year, the vampire movie. So just a joy to have him, and I think he killed it. He was a great villain. And essentially, so Noah's tribe gets attacked by these advanced tribe of apes, like a warrior tribe, and you know, just take away his family and friends. So he has to set out to find them and save them from this other tribe of apes. And little does he know, there's more to the world, and you know, more about what Caesar's teachings have brought upon the apes and cultures. So without spoiling too much, I feel like that's as much as I can go into. And overall, it's definitely a good movie, especially to kick off the kind of near the end of spring, kicking off summer movies. But what did you think of this movie, Bern?
I mean, look, this movie definitely had a lot to prove in a few ways, because, I mean, you know, coming off of the last trilogy, which a lot of people, including myself, would consider almost a perfect trilogy, it's kind of hard to follow up, especially like the last couple, how good they were and just how well put together they were. So, you know, definitely that was a hurdle there. And also going into it, I did have a little bit of trepidation, because the director for this movie was going to be, you know, Wes Ball, who up until this point had only directed the Maze Runner movies. And, you know, I wasn't a huge fan of those. I mean, I think it was just kind of one of those things where that sort of YA, you know, adaptations of the books, things kind of had run its course by the time those movies had come out. So, the Maze Runner movies and the Divergent movies, I didn't really pay too much attention to, after getting things like the Hunger Games and the Harry Potter movies and stuff. I was kind of done with that. So, following up Matt Reeves and his creative team is no easy task. So this movie definitely had a lot of hurdles to get through. And overall, I think they did a really good job of justifying this movie's existence. I came away very surprised from this movie. I think it is a really strong start to what seems to be another chapter of movies. I don't know how many they plan to do, but this definitely feels like a part one in a lot of aspects. Getting introduced to these characters and this world now. Hundreds of years later, like you mentioned after the end of the last movie. So they have a lot of fertile ground to sort of tell their own story, which is good. And I think that's one of the things that this franchise keeps on doing is making smart decisions with the stories and the characters that they bring into them. And I think setting this movie generations after the last one is good for a couple of reasons. One, you can have like sort of a fresh start with a new group of characters, and also the fact that the events of the last movie are sort of mythologized, and we can refer back to them in interesting ways and not like by not like directly referencing them. We can just sort of like they sort of like exist in like sort of the ether of this movie, and they have a presence, but you're not like directly comparing the two, if that makes sense. So I think they made a really good decision there. And I think Noah as a main character was just a really strong choice. Because Caesar from the last movies, almost from the get-go, is sort of a leader character, is a larger than life and sort of like ushering in, all these other apes and taking, the front of it all. And Noah's a little bit of the opposite of that. He's a little bit more of an underdog, a little bit more of a coming of age story in this one. And we get to see a character grow with him. And I thought that was a really, really good choice. So we can kind of like start rooting for this guy and like his story and not directly compare him to Caesar, because obviously a lot of people are going to go in with those sort of thoughts in their mind, and from the get-go they sort of do a good job of separating the two. Like, these are two very different apes, and I think they're both interesting in their own right. So again, I think just a lot of smart decisions in this movie that I think took me by surprise, because I was expecting for them to drop the ball hard on this, and they didn't, and I'm glad that they didn't.
Yeah, I was definitely hoping they wouldn't drop the ball. I mean, because it's one of those things. The last trilogy is damn near perfect. You definitely have to keep that quality and that standard of storytelling, especially coming off something like that. And I mean, with it now being owned by Disney and stuff, we've seen what's happened to the Marvel universe the last few years. So it's definitely a legitimate concern for a franchise like this. But I think this one held up on its own, and I think it actually has a lot to say about not only history repeating itself, but the idea of like religious figures and what the times have changed and how people really manipulate and kind of twist words to fit their own descriptions and stuff. Because yeah, I think you called it. Noah is nothing like Caesar. Caesar was probably the most compassionate character in the entire Planet of the Apes franchise, at least of these movies now. And then so not only do you have like Noah, who's very skeptical and very naive to the world, but then you have Kevin Durant's character Proximus Caesar, who embraces the name Caesar and really uses that to his own advantage. And very much like Toby Kebbell's character Koba from the last one. So yeah, just great callbacks to kind of bring the original elements of this movie, the trilogy, but then kind of add new stuff. And Freya Allen's character, the way hers was designed, I couldn't stand her human character, just because humans are definitely the main villains of these franchises. But so it's a very down the middle character with her. Some people are gonna probably agree with her. Others, like myself, may hate her. Or you understand her. You kind of understand where everyone's coming from to a certain extent. They all have a good justified opinion on stuff. But having said that, because Byrne did kill it with his description of everything, with the storytelling, the acting, the visuals alone as well, I'm gonna give this movie a hard 4 out of 5. Because while it is a really great movie, definitely one of the stronger ones this year, it just didn't have that emotional weight or like that impact that the original trilogy had. I think it's just missing something. But they're definitely going to do more movies after this, I think. So there's a lot more room for improvement after that.
I mean, yeah, this is definitely a setup movie. You know, it's a lot like I think the best comparison is to the first of the last trilogy, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and that one did a lot of laying of the groundwork of for both the world and the characters, and I think this one does a lot of the same. I do think this one gets off to a little bit of a quicker and better start. There were a lot more characters in this movie that I really found myself enjoying. I mean, again, really surprised by Owen Teague as Noah. I thought he was really compelling, a main character, a very different type of main character than we're kind of used to in these movies. So I thought that he did a fantastic job, and of course Kevin Durant, as you mentioned, who continues to be underrated, and I think he brought a really good level of gravitas to the this Proximus Caesar character, who is Caesar in title and not in name, that you mentioned, and I think he has a really good, really strong and intimidating presence. But when you get a little bit of a story, it's like you said, you don't really know who's good or bad in this situation. It's just everybody sort of searching for their own ambitions and stuff. So, and that's one of the things that continues to be good about this franchise is how it comments on the human condition, through the lens of all these apes, and in this movie, this whole like quest for knowledge, and what you're willing to do for knowledge, and good or bad. So it's again really interesting thematic stuff that we're diving into here, and I'm glad that continues to be carried over from the last group of movies. And the biggest surprise for me was Peter Macon's character Raka. I won't say too much about them, but I thought he stole the show every time he was on screen, and he did a really good job. But yeah, look, what else can you say about these movies? They're always really great in terms of cutting edge visual effects. The performance capture continues to make a case for considering these types of performances for acting categories, and when it comes to awards seasons type stuff. So I mean, the last movies definitely championed that, and hopefully these ones can as well. But yeah, as you mentioned, this is a really fun adventure movie, and again establishing this new set of movies that we're looking to get in the future. And yeah, well, I do think it does get a little bit a little off to a slow start in the beginning. I think it picks things up very, very well in the halfway mark. And although I liked a lot of the characters, Frey Allen didn't really work for me as much. Not necessarily the character. I thought just her performance wasn't up to the role that she was playing in this movie, and maybe that changes in the future, maybe not. But as it stands right now, she kind of stuck out for me in not the best ways. But luckily, these movies are very ape focused, so she wasn't able to drag everything down too much. Not that she's bad or anything. It's just I think the role required a little bit more. But yeah, other than that, I thought it was a really good time. Again, really good start to this series, and it's going to be a 4 out of 5 from me as well.
Good choice. For those of you who did happen to capture this movie, or capture it in theaters, get a chance to see it. I'm sorry. Let us know what you thought about it in the comments. We'd love to keep the conversation going. Get your thoughts in there. Until next time, everyone. Stay bodacious and keep on ranting for us.
That's right, everybody. Be good, be safe, and as always, we'll catch y'all on the next one.